do I want to share with you all here this evening? You know, tonight we begin the preparation for the birth of Jesus, right? That's kind of how we traditionally understand and know what this evening is. But in Unity, we kind of do things a little differently, right? We kind of have a little different twist and spin on things. And so for Unity, what we believe and how we engage this evening is about looking at the birth of the Christ, but looking at it from the vantage point of the birth from within. How is it that we become that Christ consciousness? How is it that we birth a new reality that is in truth and is in spirit? So it's not about this baby necessarily a long time ago, though that's part of the story. But it's really, what does that story create within us that we bring to the world because we are here now? So we do this thing every year where we think then, we look outside of ourselves, but the idea is, how do we birth that Christness within us? So when we see all this hustle and bustle of the holidays and all the Christmas movies and all the Hallmark Channel movies, I already told y'all I'm an addict, I'm sorry. When you see that, right, what are you seeing? All of this excitement and the wonder and the awe of the season and all of these feelings of family and community, and you feel your heart just cracking open, right? Even you hear these beautiful Christmas carols, and doesn't it just tug at your heart? You remember, you feel. And so the idea for us is to think about how we are birthing into this, all of those feelings within us, and carrying them beyond this season. The season also is about hope and a possibility. And so we carry that within us. We generate that within us. We're building that within us here as individuals and as a community so that we are descending the light and we are sending it out into the world. And so that's what we're doing here today. Because the reality is some of us here are hurting right here in this room. We know the people out of these walls for sure are hurting for many different reasons, whether it's through poverty or oppression or COVID or whatever the case may be. And so for us, as we go on this journey here together, we are journeying here together tonight to Bethlehem as a community as we bring the light from within and bring the light down as we commune and connect. What does that mean then for us? How do we kind of get into that rhythm or that vibe? Because it sounds good, but some of us are like, well, I'm not there yet, right? Want to be there, maybe. I invite you to think about it this way. For us to truly be in that, we also have to release some things. We have to release some things in order to be in that place where we can be open and receptive. We can be willing to be part of that great wave of magic and mysticism. The Christmas story is a great way for us to enter into this conversation about life and the mystery of life and the light that we all are, that we bring to the world. If we look at the Christmas story, and I'm not going to get into all the details because most of us know it backwards and forward, even if it's just from like cartoons or whatever, that we see. Most of us know what it's about, right? But what we see in that story is the idea of angels and dreams become the carriers of wisdom. What are those really? They're really our intuition and our inner wisdom that is speaking to us and telling us, this is the move you need to make. This is the thing you need to do. This is a thing you need to let go. So the Christmas story is reminding us that wisdom that we carry. Mary and Joseph remind us that sometimes those messages come and we got to actually move. Because if we don't, we're not heeding that message. Mary and Joseph were given tasks to actually be channels of the Spirit that seemed in that story to be really big tasks. Craziness, if we look at it in that way, right? And yet they listened to that intuition because they knew something was there for them. And not just for them, it was something that they were creating that would create a reverberation that would change the lives of many. They listened to that. They listened to that call from Spirit. And so between that mystical union between Mary and Joseph, we have this beautiful newness, this baby, this birth that becomes light and hope. And so we think about that, right? All of these characters. Here's another little thing that I'll suggest. When we think about the Christmas story, there are all these disparate characters, right? There's the shepherds. You know, we have the angels and the shepherds, and we have the magi. All of these folks are coming together to create this story. But the underlying idea that we're looking at there too, if we kind of think about all of this, is that there is a mix of cultures and of classes. In that time in the story, if you look at it even just from a historical context, whether you think of it as true or not, those were classes of people that didn't necessarily mingle. I mean, shepherds were kind of, in the rungs of society, were kind of on the lower end. And so for them to come and be in the same room with magi, I mean, these were people who were coming from another culture, from the East, who were gifted. They were magi because they thought of them as magicians, but they were really healers. They were powerful alchemical healers. And so for all of these people to be in the same room together was almost revolutionary. For the shepherds to stand up and say, I will come see the king. I, a lowly shepherd, will come see the king, Jesus. So all of this is happening in this story. We're mixing cultures, social classes, and let me add to that just a little bit more. Mary. We're mixing in this idea of a woman who is actually, other than Jesus, is the focal point of this whole story. Again, if we look at the significance of that, there's all of this happening in the Bible that most of us don't really even realize. I didn't realize all of this. Ultimately, what all of these characters and sort of the sub-stories are wanting to have us kind of think about is the idea of unity and oneness. We are all the same, and we are all in this together, and yet we are all different, and we bring that beautiful difference to this connection. But beyond that, the story is about freedom. It is a story about leaving the past. It is a story about leaving convention. It is a story about leaving what your brain and intellect is thinking. It is a story about leaving what society is telling you is true, and you're bringing forth your freedom by leaving all of that behind. Defying convention, defying all of this, leaving old ideas, release. The story of light is also a story about release and acceptance. It's interesting that this story is not just Christian. We think of it as just a Christian story. But this Wednesday, I had the wonderful opportunity to be part of a winter solstice ceremony that was here. Was anybody here for that? Yeah. And we had some indigenous Aztec dancers who follow the teachings and rituals of that sort of the Aztec and indigenous kind of world. And they brought that to us. And one of the interesting things is the way they celebrate the winter solstice is very much also like the way many other people celebrate the solstice around the world. And it's the exact, almost same story as the Jesus story. It's about the light and the star and creating that light and how we are seeing and being that light. This story is really, it's like primordial. It's a human story. It's a collective story that we all share. And there's a reason why it's across cultures. It's not just here in Christianity. But it's everyone's story. It's my story, it's your story, it's your story. It's this idea that we collectively have this consciousness that we're birthing, that is a consciousness that is resonating and in vibration with universal truth. All of us are doing that at some level, whether we realize it or not. And so we're freeing ourselves in this time so that we are going on this personal journey to be the light. How do we bring the light? Again, release. Think about your life right now. What in your life might you need to release? Could it be addiction? Could it be negative thoughts? Could it be disease that you want to let go of your body? What do you need to release? I can't answer that for you because it will be different for everyone. But part of this journey to be the light also means letting there be space for the light to shine freely and boldly and openly. And sometimes that means leaving people too. Conscious connection with the source requires that. Conscious connection with our mission and mandate as human beings, because I don't care what you do. You could serve food in a restaurant. You could be the president of the United States. We all have the same mission and mandate, whether we realize it or not. And that is to be the light. That is to find our own inner light. What is sparkling there? What is opening that space? What is creating that space? What is giving you that energy to open that space and then let it flow? So that is what we're here to do. So tonight, I'm going to do something a little different. I was thinking about the fact that we are in this interesting time. And so we're all wearing masks, except for me, because I'm up here, right? And yet, we know that something is being born. Something amongst all of this is being born. And so we take that energy tonight. And though there might be sadness, I was talking to a friend yesterday, for example, and she's in a part of the country where there's a huge spike. And so a lot of things are canceled. She was not able to do the things for this evening and be in community and in communion and have a meal and all of this because of that. And many people are the same. Are you vaxxed? Are you not? Did you get the booster? Did you, we're all in that. And that's the truth, right? And so I thought about how could we do something that reminded us that whether we can sit at a table across from somebody or not, that we are still in spiritual community. So tonight, good people, we're going to do a metaphysical communion. Dun, 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 dun. What is a metaphysical communion? Has anyone ever done a metaphysical communion? Wow, all newbies. Ooh, this is going to be fun. What is that? Well, we know what communion for the most part is, right? But again, in Unity, we do things differently. We're looking at the metaphysics of it. That means what is beyond the material, what is beyond what we see and think, to kind of the message within or the mysticism within. What is happening really, and how can we come to this story and understand it? So tonight we're going to do a little bit of that. In the Bible, for example, and the way we understand traditionally how we come to communion is from the ritual of Passover. And that's when the Israelites are celebrating their freedom from bondage or slavery in Egypt. But tonight we're going to celebrate this experience as a remembrance of our own release from human consciousness and our freedom into the evolution of divine expression. We are going to engage this ritual here tonight so that we can play with this notion and build this energy to be the light of the world. It was said that Jesus said, "Do this in remembrance of me." But I ask you all tonight, who is me? Who is the me that each of you need to remember here tonight? Who is the me that was lost? Who is the me that you've never known that is waiting to meet you? Who is the me that was taken from you that you need back? Do this in remembrance of me. So I'm going to ask some folks to help me out here with this evening. And actually, I'm going to do the meditation first. My apologies. So I'm going to guide you a little bit here, what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of a meditation. But first, let me kind of give you some of the moving pieces. The bread for us here represents the substance of God that nourishes us. It's the energy from which all creation comes from. When you think about the phrases, let me chew on that. Let me think about that. Let me absorb that. Let me integrate that. When we think of the bread, we're thinking about this as true substance that's building us up, that's nourishing us, that's feeding us in the spirit. This is our metaphysical bread. And so with the wine, we have juice, okay? With the wine, it's about the blood, but not blood the way, again, we understand it. What is blood? Blood is life force. Blood is coursing through our veins at every given time, oxygenating our body, every cell of our being. And so the blood is that life force that we have within us. And when we take that, we're remembering that we have that. We're allowing for that to expand. These are all symbolic actions that we do for a reason, because ritual and symbol remind us. We get that feeling and it reminds us. It's not about what we're doing exactly or the little things that we have in front of us that we're playing with or ingesting. It's about what spirit we're bringing to this. And so I challenge each and every one of you to let go of those old ideas. Whatever you thought about communion, whatever you thought about the blood, whatever you thought about the bread, whatever you thought, let it go this evening and allow yourself to open up to something new. Consciously accepting that presence, setting the intention to accept the presence this evening of the Christ within. In Charles Fillmore's book, he says that Holy Communion is about establishing our acceptance of the Christ consciousness, whose coming we celebrate in our heart and mind. The bread used in churches symbolizes substance, a body of spiritual ideas. And the wine used symbolizes blood, which we consider life, or the circulation of divine ideas in our consciousness that will purify our mind and heart and renew our strength, freeing us from all corruption and error, bringing forth in us abundant, unlimited life of God. So tonight we're going to do this ritual to be in communion. So I'm going to invite everyone to just take a couple deep breaths. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And if you've never closed your eyes before when you're meditating, or if it feels odd to you, maybe challenge yourself to do it, even if you're taking peeks. Because as we close our outer eye, we're opening up our inner eye to be able to connect, to consciously connect, and to be in that flow of the presence, to not just know it, not just talk about it, but to feel it so that you almost feel like you're lifting yourself up off the chair. Close your outer eye. Take a deep breath. And know, we are here tonight to be in conscious communion, to be in conscious community, and to be the light. So we take a moment, just allowing for whatever happened this week or this month or whatever is happening in our life right now, we allow it to rest. Doesn't mean it's not there. We just allow it to rest for a moment. We're not battling with it right now. We're allowing it to rest so that we can just have that moment of the commune with the divine, to be able to see and to feel and to hear and to taste and to know. Breathe that in. You are the light of the world. And we take in this mystery tonight. We take in the bread and the wine to call forth that energy, to allow it to just live and move and breathe in us, this wonder of life. And so what we're going to do is do that communion service. I'll instruct you in a second. But before you do that, I ask again, what thing or things must you release to be the Christ being birthed in you tonight? And who do you want to remember? I invite you to take a few minutes in the silence as we allow that to just ruminate on our hearts and in our souls.